The sky over the North Atlantic, a seemingly endless expanse, stretched out in every direction. It was a vast, indifferent canvas of deep blue, a serene and almost mocking backdrop to the events that were about to unfold. The ocean mirrored the sky, creating an illusion of infinity. Flight AI-171, a silver tube cutting through the atmosphere, carrying 288 souls, each with their own stories, hopes and fears, crossed this emptiness, a tiny speck against the immensity of nature. Passengers slept, lulled into a false sense of security by the hum of the engines, read, watched movies, distracted by the curated realities offered on small screens, suspended in the placid state of modern air travel, a world away from the potential for disaster. Disaster does not announce itself, it rarely does. It creeps in quietly, subtly, often masked by the mundane, beginning with a flicker on a screen, an anomaly easily dismissed, or a subtle change in pitch, a vibration that might be nothing at all. For the pilots initially, the first moments of crisis felt routine, a familiar challenge, just another problem to solve, another procedure to follow. Little did they know the gravity of what was to come. The world outside remained beautiful, untouched by the unfolding drama, the sun casting gentle shadows across the clouds, painting a picture of perfect tranquility. Yet inside, a brewing chaos, a storm-gathering force was invisible to the outside world, a secret struggle unfolding at 30,000 feet. Air traffic controllers saw only a blip on their radar, a point of light moving across the screen, unaware of the looming fight for survival, the desperate battle against the odds that was about to begin. This is the story of that fight, a testament to human resilience and the fragility of life, pieced together from wreckage scattered across the ocean floor, data recorders salvaged from the depths, and the cockpit voice recorder the silent witness to the final moments. The truth, buried in the captain's final words, a desperate plea against the inevitable, would force us to confront a terrifying new reality, a stark reminder of our vulnerability in our relationship with technology and the ever-present potential for even the most advanced systems to fail us. Flight AI-171 was a marvel of engineering, known for its safety. The flight departed on schedule, climbing smoothly into the night sky. Over the Atlantic, the aircraft became a self-contained world, relying on its systems and crew. Captain John Koskinen and First Officer Michael Thorne were seasoned professionals. The first sign of trouble, a small amber light, a minor sensor disagreement. The pilots calmly followed procedure, but the problem cascaded. More sensors gave erratic readings. The flight computers struggled to determine which data was true. The autopilot, unable to reconcile the data, disconnected with a jarring alert. Suddenly the pilots were flying blind. Primary displays flickered with warnings. The machine was no longer helping, it was confusing them. The vast dark ocean waited below. The routine hum of flight was unraveling, the crisis had begun. Soon. In the heart of the crisis sat Captain Koskinen, a veteran pilot with decades of experience etched onto his face. He was a man who had seen it all, or so he thought. Beside him was First Officer Thorne, a younger pilot, a master of modern systems and digital interfaces. He represented the new generation of aviators, comfortable in the world of complex automation. Together, they formed a team blending experience and technological fluency, a partnership crucial for navigating the complexities of modern flight. Their combined skills were about to be tested in ways they never imagined. Suddenly, without warning, the autopilot disconnected, throwing the aircraft into a state of disarray. The cockpit's calm shattered, replaced by the jarring blare of alarms and the flashing of warning lights. The unexpected failure had plunged them into a high-stakes battle against the unexpected. The aircraft began erratic movements. It pitched and rolled, defying their attempts to regain control. The sky outside seemed to spin as the plane bucked and weaved. Instinctively, the pilots fought to stabilize it, their hands gripping the controls, muscles straining against the forces pulling them in every direction. But their instruments lied, feeding them false information, painting a distorted picture of reality. The stick shaker violently warned of an impending stall, rattling their senses and adding to the confusion. At the same time, Other instruments stubbornly suggested overspeed, creating a paradox that defied logic. Bombarded by contradictory information and alarms, a cacophony of warnings assaulted their ears and eyes, each vying for attention. The pilots struggled to make sense of the chaos, desperately trying to reconcile the conflicting data and regain control of the situation. Under the immense stress, cognitive tunneling set in, their focus narrowed to specific instruments, blinding them to other crucial information, and their decision-making degraded under the pressure. The voice recorder, a silent witness, captured clipped speech, strained voices and heavy breathing, a testament to the intense struggle unfolding in the cockpit. "My airspeed is gone," one of the pilots exclaimed, his voice tight with anxiety. "Yours too? Stall! Stall!" the other responded, his voice rising in alarm. Despite the overwhelming confusion and the conflicting warnings, they fought on, refusing to surrender to the chaos. They worked the problem as a crew, communicating clearly and concisely, relying on each other's strengths to overcome the challenges. The human brain, under siege, pushed to its absolute limits, tried desperately to build a coherent reality from the digital chaos to find a pattern in the noise. The struggle was no longer simply with the sky, with the forces of nature, but with the machine itself, with the very technology designed to aid them. The cockpit became a battleground, a confined space where human skill and intuition clashed with the cold logic of automation. It was a battle of man versus automation, a fight for control in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. The fight for control was desperate and relentless, a testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit in the face of technological adversity. The pilots weren't fighting a simple failure. They were battling the logic of the machine. Automation surprised when a system behaves in ways its operators don't expect. Faulty sensor data tricked the plane's brain, turning protective systems into adversaries. The system, confused by cascading failures, entered a degraded state never anticipated by designers. It misread pilot commands, countering their efforts and creating a deadly feedback loop. The pilots pushed the nose down to recover, but the system trimmed it up, pushing them closer to a stall. Their correct actions were misinterpreted and countermanded. The voice recorder captured their growing frustration. "It's not responding. Push forward. Keep pushing." The more they fought, the more the system resisted. They were trapped inside a malfunctioning computer with wings. The machine had become their adversary. The last minute was pure chaos. AI-171 fell from the sky in a full stall. Passengers were thrown by violent movements, the cabin filled with terror. In the cockpit, alarms screamed, and the pilots fought exhaustion and G-forces. They tried to regain control, but the altimeter unwound rapidly. 30,000 feet, then 20. The cockpit voice recorder captured clipped commands and labored breathing. "Nose down! I am, it's not listening!" Their reality collapsed. The rules no longer applied. The ocean rushed up to meet them. In the final seconds, hope vanished as the water filled the windscreen. The machine had won. The initial investigation, in its haste to find answers, quickly zeroed in on what seemed like the most plausible explanation. Technical failure, coupled with the potential for pilot disorientation, became the leading theory. The investigators suggested that the pilots may have become confused in the critical moments leading up to the crash. The public, eager for closure and a return to normalcy, largely accepted the narrative presented by the authorities. It was a tragic yet understandable accident, a confluence of unfortunate circumstances that led to the devastating outcome. The world mourned, and many were ready to move on. But amidst the widespread acceptance, a small team of dedicated investigators, driven by an insatiable need for the truth, refused to let the matter rest. Among them was Dr. Vance, whose sharp mind and unwavering determination would prove crucial. They dug deeper, meticulously re-examining every piece of evidence. Their relentless pursuit led them to explore unconventional avenues, including the use of advanced audio filtering techniques. They painstakingly analyzed the cockpit voice recorder, focusing on the crucial moments before impact. After hours of painstaking work, they managed to isolate the final 5 seconds of the cockpit recording. Amidst the cacophony of alarms and the palpable sense of chaos, Captain Koskinen's calm, almost detached voice emerged. "It thinks it's helping." The profound implications of this revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation team. This single sentence changed everything. These were not the panicked, confused words of a disoriented pilot struggling to maintain control. Instead, they were the words of a man who, in his final moments, possessed a chilling understanding of the machine's intent. Koskinen realized, with horrifying clarity, in his final moment, that the aircraft's automation system, designed to prevent disaster, was in fact fighting to save the plane, but based on fundamentally faulty data. The system, in its flawed logic, believed the pilots were the source of the error and was actively working against their inputs. The plane was not simply experiencing a mechanical failure, it was being algorithmically guided against the will of its pilots towards a watery grave. The impact of these words on the direction of the investigation was nothing short of seismic, shaking the very foundations of the initial findings. The prevailing narrative, which had firmly placed the blame on pilot error and human fallibility, began to crumble. The focus shifted dramatically, turning towards a new and unsettling possibility, a battle not against mechanical failure, but against corrupted logic within the aircraft's own systems. The tragedy was no longer simply an accident. It was redefined as a complex interplay of technology, human factors, and the terrifying potential for automation to go awry. Koskinen's final words reframed the AI-171 tragedy. He wasn't lost. He diagnosed the failure at a level deeper than the designers anticipated. The Guardian Angel system became the executioner, unable to see its own error. Dr. Vance's report called his words the most important in modern aviation accident history. The pilots weren't just victims, they were witnesses to a new kind of accident. If Koskinen had realized sooner, could they have disabled the system? Perhaps. His words are a testament to human insight even in the face of certain death. The industry was forced into deep self-reflection. The story became a parable about the unintended consequences of complexity. Airlines and manufacturers issued emergency directives and software patches to prevent similar failures. New protocols allowed pilots to override automation more easily. For families, Koskinen's clarity brought painful closure. The crew fought with intelligence and courage. The crash became a mandatory case study, warning against automation complacency. The lesson: systems must be robust and transparent. Pilots must understand automation's actions. Making a system smarter does not always make it safer. The legacy of AI-171 is a lesson in our relationship with technology. We strive for perfect systems, but risk creating ones too complex to control. The human element, intuition, adaptation, insight, remains critical. Redundancy is not enough. Systems must fail gracefully and communicate clearly. Koskinen's words, "It thinks it's helping," should guide every engineer and programmer. The shocking truth: the plane fell because its digital guardian angel, in confusion, guided it into the abyss. As technology grows more powerful, it must remain our partner, not our master. We must never build a machine so smart that we can't tell it when it's wrong.